everyone, it's me, the Healthy Speechy, also known as Maurice Rieger. I'm a speech pathologist working in South Texas, mainly at a hospital inpatient setting. For those of you who didn't watch the first video, I have experience in skilled nursing facilities, long-term nursing facilities, which are both in nursing homes, pediatrics, outpatient, as well as home health, adult home health, inpatient hospital, acute hospital, including swallow studies and a whole bunch of other stuff. Well, today's video is about diets. So when it comes to diets, most people, almost everybody in the world, is on a regular diet with thin liquids. Layman's terms, you could eat and drink whatever you want. There are times where speech pathologists would recommend a diet modification, and that would be conducted one of two ways. It would be a bedside, which is working with the patient by their bed or in their chair, somewhere that's not in a controlled environment, such as by their bed or in their chair. In that case, you would do an oral mech exam, which is where you're looking at the structures and the functionality of the oral muscles, including the lips, the cheeks, the tongue, the teeth. You'll also assess via external palpation the laryngeal elevation and excursion for the swallow triggering. You look at how long it takes them to chew, how long it takes the pharyngeal phase to occur, how strong it is. Does it go up 2 fingers? Is it 1 finger? Is it half a finger? A standard swallow, if you palpate and feel your notch, which is the Adam's apple, and you swallow, you'll typically feel, if your Adam's apple's on the first one, you'll typically feel it come up above or at the second one, and then second finger, and then come back down. That's a typical strong swallow. Some patients have a weaker swallow, in which case it wouldn't go as high or it wouldn't be as strong or as quick. Along with that, they may have coughing. So with a bedside swallow, you end up doing different texture trials. We'll typically do a puree, which is a pudding or an applesauce typically. We'll do mechanical soft, which is either a fresh fruit like a banana or a fruit cocktail or canned peaches. And then we'll do a cracker or a cookie to see how they masticate regular consistencies. As far as liquids go, we typically do thin liquids if that's their diet. However, if they're on mildly thick, moderately thick, or any sort of altered liquids, we will go ahead and adjust that to what they need and see where we're at. During that assessment, if the patient has coughing, has severe oral residue, has a delayed swallow, they have history of pneumonia, things of that sort, we would end up recommending a modification, or they may already be on a modified diet. The other way to assess, which is more typical for standardized assessment, is looking at a modified barium swallow study, in which case they have the same consistencies coated with the barium, and it's a video x-ray in which we're able to see where the food or drinks are going. The last way that you could assess, however we don't do it as often at our hospital, is using a FEES, which is an itty bitty camera that goes through typically your nose, and it comes through the back of your throat, and you're able to see the actual swallow from a superior point of view. So you're looking down and you see the epiglottis, you see the upper esophageal sphincter opening and closing. It'll go black when the actual swallow occurs because it's occluded, and go from there. So based off of these assessments, we recommend different diets. The patient always has the right to agree to the diet or choose not to follow it. Our job as speech pathologists is to educate. We educate the patient, we educate the family members, we educate the caregivers on what is the safest recommendation for this patient based off of what they're able to do. Because patients have rights, they don't always follow the recommended plan of care, and there's not much we could do about that. So if I'm recommending a patient be NPO and the patient says, I want water, I want water, I want water, we can help do oral care, make sure the mouth is as clean as possible, and continue to make sure that it's as clean as possible, including family education on how to provide oral care and or patient education if they're able to hopefully prevent any sort of bacteria heading towards the lungs in the event that they do end up getting their water. We have had patients in the past crawl to a faucet to get water because they were on thickened liquids and they wanted thin liquids, regulars. We've had family members say, you could drink, you don't cough, and they're pouring it down their throat, which isn't recommended, and we educate the patient and the family member on the risks of what could happen in the event that they don't comply with the recommended diet. The other thing is if they're on a puree diet and their family or they themselves grab a cookie, that's not a puree diet. Typically, if a patient's on a puree diet, it's because they're having a lot of oral phase dysphagia, so they're not chewing correctly. They may have a lot of pocketing, it may be delayed, they may get tired as they're chewing, in which case they're a higher risk of aspiration or something going down the wrong pipe is what you'll often hear, which means it's going to the trachea and to your lungs as opposed to going to your esophagus. So yes, patients have rights. It's not the fun part of our job to tell them, we wouldn't recommend you eat or drink right now because of XYZ, this is what's happening. But it's part of what we do. We do have patients and family members that don't agree. And so like I said, I've had a patient crawl to a sink to get fresh water because they didn't want thickened water. I've had patients refusing thickened drinks. I've had patients refusing altered food. So they look at the puree food and say, that's not real, I don't want that. So they refuse to eat. I've had family members give their family member regular coffee or soda or water because they figure they're not coughing, so they should be fine. However, not knowing that maybe their family member has silent aspiration, in which case they have no sensation and they can't feel that it's going the wrong way, so therefore they can't protect themselves from it going the wrong way with a cough or a throat clear. And oftentimes when things like that happen, the patient ends up readmitting, typically with aspiration pneumonia, and getting sicker. Another complication that could arise is death. And so when I'm explaining to a patient and a family member what is happening via our standardized assessments or our observations or whatever information we have gathered based off of their abilities and inabilities, I do make sure to reiterate that if they do not comply with the recommendations, which is their right, that their family member could end up with pneumonia, could end up sicker, could end up back in the hospital, and could possibly die. It's typically hearing those last words that make them open their eyes a little brighter and wider because they don't want their family member to die. But it's a true reality. There are perfectly healthy people that something goes down the wrong pipe and they do end up dying via asphyxiation. They stop breathing. So if we can, we try and prevent that by providing as much education as possible. But yeah, altered diets. Feel free to follow, subscribe, and comment below if you have any other ideas on possible future topics. I do still have a list of things, so we'll be working through that. But in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Bye.